This segment of the NexGen Patriots podcast is sponsored in support of the West Virginia Tobacco Quit Line. If you or someone you love is ready to quit tobacco, you're just one phone call away. Trained coaches are available to provide guidance, resources, and support every step of the way. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW for free coaching, helpful resources, and encouragement to help you break free from tobacco. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW to take the first step towards a healthier future. Mr. Capito, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on the podcast today, and welcome to the NexGen Patriots podcast.
Well, thank you, Brock. It's great to be here. Let's dispense with the formalities. You can call me Moore. That'll make it a little more relaxed, but I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So I've been really excited about this episode, and we have some great topics to dive into, and I can't wait to get into it. So with that being said, everybody has an intro. And so we kind of start with everybody's career, a little bit of background history, so everybody gets to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
So as we talked before the show, you graduated college from Duke University in 2005. What was your degree in?
Well, I was a history major from Duke, which meant that the question that you immediately get when you graduate from college is, what are you going to do with that? So finding out what to do with that was an interesting journey, but I tell you, a history degree is great, especially when you come from a state like West Virginia. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So then you moved on from college. What did you do after out you start out in the workforce, or?
Well, by the time I got to my senior year in college, I knew one thing for certain, and that's that I did not want to see a book or a paper or a test anytime soon. So I went out into the workforce. I started working in Washington, D.C., young in those days. It was an exciting time. I worked on Capitol Hill actually for a few years. At one point, I did sales, going door to door, selling office supplies actually. I kind of wanted to try everything to see what I enjoyed, to test my skill set, to improve my ability to, be able to interact with people. And it was a wonderful time to really do that in that age period. And then I moved back to Washington, D.C. after being in California for a little while, and worked at the Department of then Defense, now Department of War, doing advance for the Secretary of Defense. I got the opportunity to travel all over the world, not to the places that you see on the travel magazines, but certainly to many, many places, and gained a really great appreciation for what we have in this country and what we have in this state. And at that point, it was kind of, I was talking to my parents, and they said, well, what are you going to do now? You can't, fly all over the world all the time and do this. And so, just as they recommended, take out the little notepad, do the pluses and minuses. And I said, well, what the heck? I'll go to law school and see how it goes. And so I went to law school from there.
Nice, nice. So what year did you graduate from law school?
I graduated law school in 2011.
Okay. What school did you
From
go to?
Washington Lee, a little small school in Lexington, Virginia.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So not too far from home.
Not far at all.
Awesome. Okay. So then after law school, what did you pursue after that?
Well, I knew at that point that, again, another thing was very clear to me after law school is that I didn't want to sit there and read a bunch of cases immediately. So I thought I was going to go into business at that point in time. So I went into the natural gas industry. I've always been interested in energy. Of course, one of the bedrocks of what we do here in West Virginia is the energy industry. No different than what goes on here, obviously, for many years in McDowell County. So I wanted to learn more about that from the legal side and the business side. I did that for about 11 years, a little less, close to 10 actually, closer to 10 years. And then I went into private practice after that. But it was a great experience to learn from an in-house perspective.
Yeah. So then did you start your private practice after that?
Yeah, I did. So I went into private practice because I kind of wanted to expand the sort of clients that I could work with, look at the projects and the business endeavors that I could, jump into with groups, and really have an opportunity to recruit people to West Virginia and businesses to West Virginia. I was very passionate about that. Still am, actually. And then in about 2016, I ran for House of Delegates. So as they call it, it's part-time. I quickly appreciated that it's not necessarily part-time all the time, but a great experience. and dovetailed well with the practice of law.
Awesome. Awesome. So then, as we know, of October of 2025, you was appointed. So walk us through how that all happened and how you got to that point.
Well, I really have been similar to what you're doing here, and the passion that you pour into your county and your state. I've sort of always felt that drive in my life. Certainly from a very young age. I sort of grew up in a political cocoon. My grandfather was in politics. My mother was in public service. I spent some time doing it, and it's always burned in my mind. How can I really give back to my community? What can I do? What do I have to offer to a state and a community that I love so much? My wife and I are lucky to be raising 3 kids here. So how do we make that place better and want our 3 kids to want to grow up here? And it's I sort of say that like it's a job that you could apply to, but I was really blessed and honored to have the opportunity to throw my name in the hat for consideration for U.S. Attorney in the Southern District. Candidly, it wasn't something that I had thought about long in my career, for a very, very long time. I did give it a ton of consideration because really, when the rubber meets the road, we think about what is so impactful in our communities, and it's the structure that we put around them. And in our office, in the United States Attorney's Office, we get to put structure around the whole southern part of West Virginia, working not only with our federal partners, but with our state and locals as well. So it was really the opportunity to give back and to serve, this state and this country. I was very honored to have the nomination by President Trump. Very lucky and grateful to the Senate for confirming me. And since October, that's what I've been doing. And we have a great office, and we're going every day of the week, all the time. I'm very fortunate to have really, really good people and dedicated people that work there.
Yeah. Well, what an honor that is.
Absolutely.
Truly. Yeah. So let's kind of move on into this a little bit here. So we have a few segments that we'll dive on into here. So I kind of want to really start with the role of a U.S. district, or the southern part of the state that you're the attorney over. So what does that role actually entail that you currently hold?
Well, if you differentiate it from, there's 2 federal districts in West Virginia. We're lucky to have that. One of the districts is just by far superior and better, and that's the Southern District, of course, where we are. I'm kidding to Matt, if you're watching. So Matt Harvey's the Northern District Attorney. He's a great guy. We get along well. As a matter of fact, I was in Wheeling last week, and I was at an event with Matt for Law Enforcement Appreciation Week, which was great, by the way. And I said, when I went up there and they asked me if I wanted to say a few words, I said, rare is it, or not long ago was the time when a United States attorney from the Northern District would have one from the Southern District to an event, let alone let them make a remark, because it's pretty territorial. But we work together. We are all about the mission and what this President Trump has put before us to go do, and we're working together to do that. But basically, our job is, they call us on the website, they're the Chief Law Enforcement Officer, as they say. It's a fancy title, but really, what we do in our office is not unlike what county prosecutors do in each of the counties in West Virginia, except for we enforce federal law. So anything that has a federal nexus, we can prosecute. Anything in those federal statutes or that the United States Congress passes that they say you can't do, if you do those things, we can prosecute. I'm putting it very simplistically. We also have a civil side where we enforce, if we have healthcare fraud, or some of these qualified regional health centers that receive federal dollars are sued, we defend them on behalf of the United States. But what was probably the most moving thing to me was to go in and to watch our prosecutors, who are really tremendously smart people, stand up and say, on behalf of the United States. And what a powerful statement that is, that every day folks in our office stand up in front of judges and say, Your Honor, on behalf of the United States, or for the United States. And I try to remind them, and they remind me what that really means, and the importance and the power behind that. And so, as we've seen over the last 10 years, the Department of Justice has received critiques, rightfully so, on how it should be used. It's not a weapon to be used. It is something to be used to protect people, to protect communities and keep communities safe. That's what we're focused on in our office, and I think we're making good strides at it.
Yeah, so as we kind of dive into this a little bit even more deeper, what does a U.S. District Attorney do on a day-to-day?
What do I do, or what do the attorneys in our office do?
What do you do?
Okay, because see, if I sit here and I take credit for what they do, then they're going to watch this and go, he doesn't do that. No, we have, so like I said, it's an interesting position because it's one that you come into and you're not, I jokingly say I'm a temporary employee.
Yeah.
So the president appoints the United States attorney for each of the 90, well, there's 93 U.S. attorneys, there's 94 districts across the country.
Okay.
And he appoints all of them. And I don't know how many we have confirmed at this point, but we come into an office where you have career civil servants. And a lot of times career folks in government get knocked, but it's career government. We really have the best employees that you could ever ask for at least in the Southern District. That's all I can speak for.
Yeah.
They're motivated, they're smart, they want to help their communities. They're working there because they want to be part of the community and help their communities. So we really have a group of United States attorneys in the Southern District that either prosecute case or they work in our civil division. And I would say on a day-to-day basis, what they are doing is routinely communicating with law enforcement in the community, routinely communicating with community advocates in our communities. They're putting together, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. Our judges in the federal system like to read and study a lot, and so we have to prepare the written materials, unfortunately, or fortunately, because oftentimes we're very successful. And they're talking to the other members of the bar. I mean, when we're prosecuting a defendant, there's a defense attorney that our prosecutors are communicating with on a daily basis. So what I do as the U.S. attorney is much different. We try to communicate what our vision and what our message is to West Virginians. Of course, President Trump has been very strong on some of the missions that we're going to accomplish in this country. We want folks that are committing crime and that are here illegally committing crime, we want them to be removed from our communities. That's dangerous. We shut down the border. That was incredibly important. Now we've moved on to really putting a really super tight grip on fraudulent activity that's going on in our community. I mean, it's unbelievable the level of fraud that goes on with federal dollars, and it's sad, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But in a state like West Virginia, we have to keep a close eye on that because we do get a lot of government money that comes in and through here. I would say that our bread and butter is really our drugs and violent crime practice group. We have great prosecutors that are pulling very dangerous people off the street all the time. They're pulling off tons of drugs, nasty people, and really dangerous firearms. Yeah. Now, you're looking at someone who is a huge supporter of the Second Amendment and a gun owner, but guns in dangerous people's hands that are illegal is a really bad thing, and we ensure every single day that more and more of those guns come off of the street and more of the drugs that go along with them do. And then I got to get, some of the really neat thing about being the U.S. Attorney is that you get to sort of focus on a couple of the things that you think are important. What do you think can make the impact, in the community? And like I said, I've got young kids, and to me, crimes against children and child exploitation is disgusting to me. And I was actually astounded by the number of incidences that this occurs all over the state of West Virginia. Unbelievable. And so we've really put a focus on that to try to make sure that as many child sex offenders that are out there get put behind bars as quickly as possible. That's an initiative that we're working on very strongly right now. And then protecting our seniors. There are a lot of really smart, in this technological age that we're living in, there's a lot of really smart, a lot of it includes this artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
People using that to try to rip off our seniors. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of that and prosecute those folks as well.
Yeah, do you know like the stats of what your office has covered, like the most range in? I was like, what you guys have probably prosecuted?
Well, and
genre?
Oh, well, definitely drugs. I mean, drugs has got to be the biggest one, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, of course, as you know, as we experienced so badly here, we were just hit with, when a couple presidents ago, we had someone who sort of wasn't very bullish on the coal industry, and put a lot of our people out of business. And when he did that, it was terrible for the state. And so what happened? Right after that, there was a huge vacuum, and what came in to fill the void of jobs was pills. Pain pills came all over the state of West Virginia. And many people in my office that still work there actually worked and prosecuted a lot of these cases. Fortunately, most all of the prescription drug abuse has been tapered down or cut off. But then you created another vacuum, and here came heroin. And then you cut down on heroin, and here comes fentanyl. So it's a constant and fluid battle.
Yeah.
But perhaps we'll talk about it later. But I think really the solution to combat it all is getting great prevention on the front end.
Yeah, yeah. So there's one thing I do want to touch on, because it's not talked a lot about, especially in your role. But how are cases different from a county level or state law?
Yeah, I think so. You could really go through it all. I mean, you got the green books and the red book. It's the federal law versus state statute. So what the state legislature passes, the crimes that they pass, they say, thou shalt not run a stop sign, and if you do, you get this, and then that's a state law. And then on the federal side, you may have a federal law that says you can't, have a fraudulent tax return. But the difference is, for us, I mean, the federal statute has to have an interstate or a federal nexus. That means that it has to touch and concern something within the jurisdiction of the federal government, meaning it has to be an interstate commerce. Did they use a computer to send something, to send money, or to send a message? If it's guns, we know that guns, by and large, almost 100% of firearms are some part of them is constructed in interstate commerce. So that's where drugs inherently, as the Supreme Court said, is an interstate commerce activity. And then, of course, you have all of these constitutional issues. So if anything is brought up and the constitutionality of something is questioned, we sometimes, we deal with those questions, of course, a lot of times through hearings, whether it's through evidence. But really, that's sort of the wonky difference. The main difference is that when you think about crimes against a person, you think about murder, you think about crimes against property like larceny and all of those things. Those are more state crimes. Yeah. So rape and murder, and those sort of, with exception. When you think on the federal side, we think of drug trafficking, we think of child exploitation, we think of any of your white collar crimes, so fraud, money laundering, those sorts of things are more federal crimes.
Okay. So as we kind of move on here a little bit further, I obviously asked what was probably what was one of the most common cases that you guys do? What outside of drugs is common? Probably
firearms, when you have, they go together.
Yeah.
We do, unfortunately, we do a lot of child exploitation cases. We have a lot of folks that are preying on children, that are trying to engage in sexual acts with children. Unfortunately, we have more of those, but I'd be worried if we didn't have a lot, because I know how many there are.
Yeah.
And that would mean that we weren't on top of them. We do have a lot of those cases. A lot of times we have people that are just offending. We have dangerous people. We have sex offenders that are out there that haven't registered. A lot of time we catch those folks. We have people that are on supervised release that were, dealing drugs in our community, and now they're back out dealing drugs in our community, or they have a firearm or something like that, and they're dangerous people. And so we get a lot of those as well. And then, of course, we hear a lot. We have a lot of prisons in West Virginia, so we hear a lot from our federal prison facilities, correction facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of on to like current issues in public safety.
Yep.
Are drug traffickers operating differently today, obviously, than what they were 5 to 10 years ago?
They're
and
smart.
Kind of explain
smart.
Why.
It's unbelievable. When you look at it, you say, this person did all this. You'd be amazed. You look at a file, and you're going into sentencing, and you're listening to this sentencing report. So you have you get this pre-sentencing report, and they write all, this person was born here, they did this, they went this much schooling, they did all this, and and then you read what they did in the drug trafficking trade, let's say. And some of them, Brock, I'm not kidding, they're brilliant. I mean, the way that they do accounting, the way that they know how much product goes here, goes there. The problem is, it's terrible activity. Yeah. It's illegal. I mean, it's horrible what they're getting into, but it just makes me think if we can get these folks to use their brain in the right way, they could be productive members of society. Mm-hmm. It's really unbelievable. And as drug trafficking changed, absolutely it's changed. It used to probably be, conducted on a payphone from one place to the next, and then, it probably went to cell phones, and people would call each other on the cell phone and conduct some sort of a drug trade or something like that. Then it went to probably text and phone, and then it probably went to Messenger, and then it's FaceTime. So you're always chasing the latest. What I would say is that the drug trade has followed technology, mm-hmm. and the means with which folks trade drugs, sell drugs. Yeah. They use the latest and greatest technology to do so.
There's something I want to touch on real quick, because we've discussed this before and it's become an even prominent issue with law enforcement. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the encrypted messaging and how that's making it even harder.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Getting these guys.
Okay, so, and I value this too. So we're a country that values First Amendment right, mm-hmm. right? We all do. Mm-hmm. We want protection, You're sitting there having a conversation. You say, well, I don't really have anything to hide here, but I don't really want everybody, Right. And so somebody says, I need the latest and greatest, protective messaging system. Mm-hmm. And of course, we originally saw it with Signal, mm-hmm. and then we had Telegram. I mean, they're both, of course, still out there. Mm-hmm. And then they say, you use our platform, and it's just between you and the other messenger, mm-hmm. and you have the encryption key, and they have the encryption key. And, if you throw your phone away, it's gone. Well, the truth is it is. It's not, that's real. Right. That's real stuff. And so we all appreciate the protections that we're getting. Now those protections are pretty much on any messaging system that you see. Mm-hmm. Unless you have an Android or you're an iPhone user and you get a green message, that is all encrypted. So iMessage, iPhone, Face, all that mm-hmm. stuff. And I'd be sitting here and, some of the people that work with me are like, why are you saying that? Everybody already knows. Like all of these people already know that stuff. And so those technological advances are making it difficult. We talk to these big tech companies and we tell them, mm-hmm. Why are you cutting our legs out from under us? I understand that they got to balance some stuff here. Right. But work with us. Mm-hmm. We're trying to put bad guys away here. We're not trying to sit here and spy on people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially, most youth has some kind of sort of a device, nowadays. And so that just makes it even harder. So in what ways, now this is an interesting angle, in what ways has AI changed the type of criminal cases your office investigates?
This is one area that I think criminals actually are behind on.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
Because a chatbot really is not going to line up a drug trade for you if you think about it. Mm-hmm. Really, what they do is they help sharpen what you want to say or look for. That's how I found chatbots to be. Yeah. Now, organizationally, they can probably help you with a business plan or help you with a distribution network or something mm-hmm. like that. But or whatever the logistical concern if you're a really big sort of drug dealer. But where we've seen AI come into play more, which is sort of unsurprising, I guess, has been in some of the fraudulent activities. Now, you get a call, or one of your grandparents get a call at home, mm-hmm. and it says, this is the county sheriff or the deputy sheriff, and you owe $500 in taxes that you haven't paid yet. Mm-hmm. Okay. If I make that call, your grandparents going to be like, who is this? Right. But if, we're getting to a point where, and I actually heard a story on this, where somebody got, had for, I think, $10,000 because they had an AI voice that sounded perfectly in tone with wherever the person was from, with that dialect, mm-hmm. and friendly and all of these things that otherwise you would be a red flag to say this is a fraud.
Yeah.
So it's the manipulation that we're starting to see in the fraud cases, I think.
Okay.
That's interesting. Now, I will say we have seen some court filings. We do not do this in our office, but we have seen some court filings that they had a tinge of AI in them, I think. But of course, we don't do that because there's too many. AI has what they call hallucinations, as they say. So they'll cite the wrong case or something like that, and I don't want to be in the room when one of our judges finds one of those mistakes.
Yeah, that's embarrassing
Yeah.
in the end of the day, for sure. What concerns you the most about the future of young Americans, just in general?
That's a good question. I think. Okay, so we all have an American spirit, right? We're all sort of motivated by something. And I think each generation is motivated by something different. I'm hopeful that, and again, like I said, I have 3 kids under the age of 12. I mean, and to find what they're really motivated in and what they want to do. And I think finding what gets their interest or what piques their interest is always, a challenge. And if you look back as a history major, I can tell you, I mean, what interests or motivates other generations doesn't work for the next one.
Yeah.
And really, in the generation that I'm in, I should be thinking about how are we setting up our society for the generation to come. Not for ourselves, but for the generation to come. But I think it's being brought to talk to people. I talk to folks that come in and interview with our office all the time for jobs, and I said, this is a great job because you're representing your country. That's awesome. You can do something you're prideful in. You can make a difference in your community. And you know what? You get this little benefit of you learn how to talk to people.
Yeah.
You can stand up in a courtroom and present something to real people.
Yeah.
And that's sort of lost on us these days. I mean, I grew up in the era of, you say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. We've sort of lost some of those very basic skills. Hell, they don't even teach kids to write cursive barely anymore, I mean, and people say, well, they're typing. I said, well, let's slow down. Let's learn the basics. I think we skip the basics to get to too quickly to things that aren't as important.
Yeah. And we're slowly starting to see the effects of it.
I agree.
In the workforce.
I agree.
Especially. Yeah.
I agree. There's an entitlement.
Yeah, there is. And it's definitely concerning for future years ahead as my generation, I can say, gets older.
Yeah, no question.
What gives you hope about the future of West Virginia?
The spirit. West Virginia's spirit. I am always amazed when you go to a county, and I've traveled. I've been to every county in West Virginia multiple times, and you will always go into a county wherever you are in the state, and somebody is going to be telling you or talking to you about what that county is going to look like if they get X, or what that county is going to look like if they get Y. And it's not somebody over here on the deck rocking a rock chair. It's somebody rolling up their sleeves, writing grants. Working inside the schools, trying to build a business, trying to pave a road, trying to apply for permits. I mean, people that believe in the future. So you can have, this is sort of what we talked about a couple weeks ago, and I talked with the Attorney General, and he was saying, there's a lot of happy talk out there. You have a lot of politicians come and say like, oh yeah, this is going to be great, and we're doing all these things. And what you really need to ask people is, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I know what you're talking about, but what are you doing? And I know what I'm doing as a U.S. attorney. I can tell you every day. You call my office, you say, we put this many people in prison, we arrested this many people, we took this much drugs off the street, these guns aren't here anymore, this child perpetrator isn't here anymore, and that person who ripped off a bunch of old couples isn't here. What are you doing? And when you go to what gives me hope is you go on the county level and you really look at people that are invested in that county, believe in the future of that county. I think when you lose that on a county level or a localized level, that's when you get into sort of DEF-CON sort of area. But we haven't lost that in West Virginia. And we're so resilient. I mean, I'm a lifelong West Virginian, so it's sort of, I look at it as sort of normal. But you go to a lot of other places and people aren't like that.
Yeah. And I think the community base behind it I mean, there's nothing like it.
No
You
question.
Go anywhere else, anywhere else in the States, and there's nothing like it, for sure. So kind of move on more of like personal / national conversations.
Sure.
How has growing up in a politically connected family shaped your perspective on public service?
I think the importance of it. I mean, I think, to take it seriously, I think my grandfather always, said, if you have the opportunity to serve, do it. If you get the call, answer it, because not everybody has that opportunity to do that. It's a noble thing to do if you want to do it. And for me, I mean, don't. And he had always said, and my mom was the same way. Don't do it if you're just doing it to do it. Do it because it's what you want to do, because you feel it in your heart and in your gut that you're doing it for the right reasons. I mean, I feel it because I love West Virginia. I mean, I don't really care if I was getting paid to do it or there's some next step. Now, my wife might argue with me if they think, I got to get something. But I mean, seriously, it's got to be something that you believe in. And if you step back and look, I think, you can really tell if people care, if they're in it for the right reasons. I mean, I think it's knowing that that public service is not about the lights and the cameras and the podiums, that it really is about the people. And I to your question, I think I learned that because I feel like I've been at so many dinner table talks with other families. I've been there for so many calls that come in on things that you never see on the camera or behind the podium or in the newspaper. It's really about what you're doing. It's about doing the little things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always little things that go a long ways.
No question.
Yeah. And so in such a divided country, where do you think Americans still find common ground?
Football. We all like football, right?
Yeah.
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 Sports.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I haven't really thought about that in a while because I was starting to think nothing. We find common ground in nothing. But we should find things that we find that we can find common ground. I think in West Virginia we're very lucky. I mean, we got common ground in the fact that we all love West Virginia. I mean, really, I think everybody that's in. I started to wonder on a national level at one point. I was like, do these people really love our country? But I don't know that I've ever thought that about our state.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel good about West Virginia, is that I think people have in common that they love our state, or they at least love, Mountaineer football or Herd football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you laugh, but I mean, it's sports. Let's find something we can talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's no matter how they do, everybody's still behind them either way.
Yeah.
We've had our ups and downs.
Talk about testing
but
your
hey,
patience. I mean, golly.
And grace.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what challenges do you think America will face over the next 10 years that people are not talking about?
I think people are talking about AI too much. You didn't ask me that question. You asked me about AI earlier. That we're not talking about. Here's what I think. I think that the impacts that some of the impacts that we had in this country by sort of shutting down this country like we did over, the pandemic, I think is going to have much more impact than people really thought.
Yeah.
I think that we still are trying to, on kids' learning and their development, I don't know that we really fully appreciate what we did to us. I mean, so my 8-year-old was, 2 at the time, learning to talk through like a mask. You can't do that. And so that was one thing, but that leads me to the pandemic, or no, not the pandemic, the drug scourge that we face, not only in, this state, but it was all across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the tentacles of this thing has to be huge. I mean, it's not just we learn about grandma and grandpa raising the kids, or we learn about the fact that these people haven't even met their parents. Some of them haven't met and never will meet their parents. But what is the mental and emotional health of that youth? You know, I mean, and they're going to be, that's going to have to be factored in their entire life. And we're getting to the point where that first age group of children that came into that environment, I mean, their grandparents are probably getting on the end of where they're not going to be there anymore. So they have no support structure at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's that's sort of stating the obvious, Brock, but I mean, I think that's what it is.
There's something I wanted to go back to real quick because you started to mention it. What do you feel like, in your eyes, what do you feel like your solution is to this drug crisis, not just as a state, but nationwide?
Well, here's the way I look at it. Okay, again, I'm a history major, buddy, but I know a little. I did listen to economics in high school just a little bit and understand, a little bit about supply and demand. Okay, drug dealers have got to have demand. There's got to be demand. They've got a product, clearly, that they've been able to get people hooked on, right? It's not probably a hard thing to sell once you get somebody hooked on it, assuming that they can have money. But they've got to have some demand. And what are we going to do about demand is what I always say. Because we, every day in my office, I'm trying to kick doors down to kill supply. I'm pulling cars over all the time to kill supply. We can do that as long as we want. But there's a reason why stores that keep getting robbed restock the shelves, because people are going to come in and buy it. So the drugs are going to keep coming, and we will keep picking them off and bringing the bad guys out. So I think you have to attack with interdiction, like we're doing in my office. You have to find and chase your way up the ladder to try to find the big drug dealers, okay? So that's one thing. But then what are you going to do about the demand side? And people always, we talk about recovery, and I applaud people that are in the recovery, but it's just such a moving target. We don't even know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I know there's evidence-based programs out there that are doing the best they can. And again, I applaud them for doing it.
Yeah.
But the reality is we haven't found that the right pedagogy or whatever it is to sort of make that work. But that's something we have to continue on. But there's no question that the best way to cut it off at the pass is through prevention. I believe that fully. I will tell you that frankly. A child that never wants to try drugs is a drug dealer's worst nightmare. And so how do we do that? It's not just about saying no. I was with a program last week talking to kids that were sort of peer tutors in this, or peer-to-peer counselors. And it's sort of giving someone the confidence, the independence, and the knowledge that they need to be able to say no.
Yeah.
Because, in middle school and high school, peer pressure is a heck of a thing. And it's gotten so more complicated. I laugh. I'm telling stories just about my middle son the whole time, but he literally said the other day in the car, he goes, life used to be so simple. I was like, dude, you're 8. I was like, what are you talking about? But it's true. With all of these technological advances that are going on right now, there's just so many different ways that they can get at these children. And so we've really got to focus on, how do we get our kids to know what a threat in a dangerous situation looks like, and then how to say no.
Yeah.
And keep saying no.
Yeah.
And I think that's the long-term solution. That's really the long-term solution, is prevention.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah. I've not heard of it that way, but yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. What role will technology and AI play in public safety and government, do you feel, in the next few years?
Oh, there's no question. AI and technology, you see, I'm a big, I say we have to embrace, AI. Of course, you're reading about it on these national levels. I think my wife, she talks more knowledgeably on this than I do, but there are some scary parts about it, but I think the benefits that it can provide society is unquestionable. For our law enforcement, for instance, it's able to put together, if you say, where was, Brock's car today? They can say, boom, 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 it was here. And then it can say, it was likely in all of these places because it was ultimately going here. It can read trends. It can come up with theories. It can help you, it can sort of help you polish your legal arguments.
Yeah.
It can always help us make our writing better, or how we synthesize reading. It can ask us questions about what we read to make sure that we understand what we read and understood it the right way, or do we think about it from another dynamic? It's almost like having, I think it's almost like having a tool that you can use to sharpen yourself. And I think if we use it in that way, it's very beneficial. If we use it to help us solve crime with predictive analysis, certainly, I think it's hugely beneficial. I don't know how helpful augmented, AI is, but time will tell. But I think it can be hugely beneficial.
Yeah. Where do you see opportunities in West Virginia over the next 5 years?
I mean, entrepreneurship, I think, is always a big one. You can look at, look, we're going to have success as long as we have spirited people in West Virginia, and we do. And as I talked about that earlier. But, all of the great sort of companies and things that we've seen in West Virginia over the years, all of these wonderful things that have been built. I mean, geez, look at Welch. I mean, look at, somebody had to have built all this amazing architecture at one point. And that was through entrepreneurship. And I think the more that we can lean into entrepreneurship, and how do we tell people that they can start a business here? How do we tell young folks this is the best place if you want to bring your business and you want to start a business and you want to take a chance, you can take it in West Virginia. I mean, that's sort of like an empowering thing, especially for a generation that's willing to take risks. We want people to be risk takers in West Virginia. I mean, there's tons of policy things that go along with that. You want a great tax structure. You want a great housing environment. You want a place that has low energy costs, low housing costs. You need good roads. You need good broadband to do all of that. Infrastructure is a huge piece of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, maybe I'm just sort of entrepreneurial in my spirit, but you throw 100 seeds into the soil, and you just need one spud. Yeah. But what do you have the whole time? Well, you have this ecosystem of people that are talking about ideas, collaborating, talking about what they can do, and is it self-beneficial to them? Sure it is. They get to build a business and make dough. Yeah. But the state of West Virginia gets to benefit, and we want the right people, of course.
Kind of talking to you about your seed analogy, everybody still gets to grow, no matter if they don't build.
Totally.
They're still growing from it.
100%.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, where do you see yourself in politics after this term?
Oh, well, I'm not in politics, but I don't know. I love what I do right now. I love serving in this role. I love being the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of West Virginia. Giving back is what sort of fuels me. I think just working with people in the community, getting to talk and meet with so many people, being able to effectuate change. I mean, being able to, for somebody to say, hey, can you help me with this? And you actually can, and doing it. Yeah. I love doing that. I mean, it's a service-oriented business that we're in, and to the extent that I can continue to work and help with moving this state along, absolutely, I'd love to do that. But I have no idea. Right now, I'm working every day to make sure that our communities are safer. That's what we'll continue to do, and we'll see what happens ahead.
Yeah. So I asked this last question to every person that I interview, because every person has a different perspective on it. So in your own words, how would you define success?
So I think success is only can only be defined. Well, it can be defined objectively, of course, but sort of it has to be a subjective definition that moves into the objective. I mean, I think it is self-fulfillment. Are you getting something out of what you're doing, or are you just going through the motions? I mean, success is building on what you've learned and passing it on to somebody else, and then feeling fulfilled about that. And I think that goes not only to what you're doing professionally, whether that's, community service related or whether that's business related, whatever that is related. And certainly there's a family element to that. I think, you're only as successful as the parent that you are to your children. I often think about that. But I think it's what gives you, if you feel fulfilled in what you're doing in your gut, there's nobody out there that should tell you that you're not successful. That's what success is to me.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. West Virginia Southern District Attorney Moore Capito, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's been an honor to have you.
Thanks, Brock.
And so I thank you for making the trip down here. I know you got a busy schedule, but we greatly appreciate it. And for you guys, until next time, we will see you guys in the next one.